Many years ago, there was an item forged in a distant land that changed the direction of humanity forever. This precious item was powerful, captivating, and given enough time, turned all who possessed it into husks of who they once were. The object that I'm talking about is not Tolkien's One Ring, but arguably something even more destructive. What I'm talking about is the smartphone. You know, like the one that you're probably watching this video on right now. When you consider how these two items influence the world around them, you'll see that it's quite easy to confuse them. If you don't believe me, let me show you why the One Ring and the smartphone are one and the same. The first thing that the smartphone and the One Ring have in common is that they both have an irresistible allure. To prove my point, I ask you to put your phone in a different room and notice how long it takes you to want it back. You'll notice quite quickly and quite often you'll want to check it to make sure it's safe, to make sure that you haven't missed out on anything, or the most common reason, you're bored. It's debilitating to part from your phone, and when you do, there's an almost tangible feeling pulling you back towards it. This attraction leads to an addiction and an obsession, just like we see in those who are near the One Ring. And as we see in The Lord of the Rings, this pull influences one's emotions and behavior. I want you to think for a second, have you ever had a friend, or anyone for that matter, take your phone and unlock it? What did you do? And more importantly, what did you feel? For a lot of people, what they would have felt is anxiety, vulnerability, fear, and possibly even anger. And what they would have done is, well, basically anything to get it back. How can one item have such control over our minds and behavior? Anyway, this brings us to the next commonality between the One Ring and the smartphone, and that is they both turn us into golems. You see, put simply, smartphones prevent us from becoming the best versions of ourselves. And I don't just mean that they impact our day-to-day life. I mean that overusing them, the way that most people do, can turn you into a shell of the person you once were. What once may have been an energetic, social, ambitious individual can quite easily turn into an apathetic, irritable, and lonely person. Now, when most people hear this, they tend to think it's an exaggeration. Much like when Bilbo claims that Gandalf is overreacting when he suggests that the ring is changing him. So with that in mind, let's be a little more specific. Smartphones negatively impact our attention, ambition, well-being, and our perceptions of the world. You see, smartphones are actively fracturing our ability to focus. When's the last time you watched an entire movie without checking your phone, or read a book for an hour? For a lot of people, the answer to this question is, I can't remember, it's been so long. Smartphones allow multiple tabs, multiple apps, multiple features. They have blessed us with the ability to FaceTime a friend, play a game, listen to an album, watch a movie, or learn about practically anything. What I'm curious to know is, how long can you maintain doing any one of those things? Can you sit through an entire album without grabbing your phone to scroll through Insta? Can you dedicate an hour to study without grabbing your phone to see what the latest news is? Even doom scrolling social media can only last so long before you decide to switch apps and continue being hypnotized. Smartphones, by their very nature, encourage us to split our attention between many things without ever truly allowing us to concentrate on one. Time is not the most precious resource we have. Attention is. And just like the One Ring, the smartphone is awfully good at stealing it. Now, with regard to ambition, the negative impacts can be summed up in a single sentence. Smartphones give us everything we need with little to no effort on our part. A constant source of dopamine without having to actually achieve anything is soul-crushing, and it will turn you into a golem far quicker than you'd imagine. If everything you need can be accessed in one small device, why would you need to go out and experience the world yourself? You don't need to improve yourself to find a suitable partner, because you can spend all day online looking at beautiful people without facing the fear of rejection. You don't need to necessarily even hang out with your friends, because you can just keep up to date with their lives with intermittent snaps on Snapchat. Smartphones ruin your ambition because they turn you into a net consumer instead of a net producer. I want you to ask yourself this question: do you spend more time living your life or watching other people live theirs. You see, smartphones have made it very easy for us to live vicariously through others. You may enjoy watching baking videos, but how many of those recipes have you actually made yourself? You may enjoy watching that couple who go to the gym together and travel around the world, but what are you doing in your life to make that a reality for you? Smartphones allow infinite access to other people's fictional lives, and when you're bombarded with this kind of content constantly, two things tend to happen. The first is you become content with being a mere observer. The second thing you do is convince yourself that these people live lives that you are inherently incapable of achieving. Neither of these are good places to be. Now for the obvious stuff. Physically, overuse of smartphones can lead to neck and back pain. It can lead to arthritis, headaches, and eye strain. Sedentary positions held for long periods of time increase your chances of death in almost every category. Notice the crippling of your body, the same as Gollum. And mentally, it's even worse. Pretty much every major study has shown that overuse of smartphones increases the likelihood of depression, loneliness, anxiety, and suicide. A hyper-stimulated digital world that can be accessed instantly without resistance can make the real world seem bleak and boring. Users can become apathetic to the outside world and would prefer to remain isolated with their precious device. Not to mention, short and sharp cuts of the outside world without context can change people's perceptions of reality. It can make them see the world in a way that is completely different from what's out there. You are metaphorically Gollum in his cave, locked away with his precious, while the outside world goes on without you participating in it. And you're happy to be this way. But even after hearing me say this, you might still not be convinced that smartphones are as dangerous as I say. And that brings us to the final similarity between the smartphone and the One Ring. And that is that they are both cunning and deceptive. You see, the One Ring was believed to have a mind of its own. It said that it could change size to slip off a finger if need be. A neat little trick to find its way back to its master. The smartphone has played an unbelievably successful trick of its own, and that is convincing us all that we need it to survive. If any of us were asked to get rid of our phones, we'd almost all utter the exact same words. Something along the lines of, but then how would I do X, Y, Z? Work, social life, romance, leisure have all been intertwined with the smartphone. Counterintuitively, it's precisely the smartphone in many situations that is causing you to fail in these areas. The smartphone is also very good at hiding behind others to avoid scrutiny. Just as some believe that it's not the One Ring that's evil, but the nature of man. This is a cunning belief designed to get the One Ring and the smartphone off the hook. For a modern example, there are many people who would say it's not the smartphone, but social media that is the true problem. And if it's not social media, then it's online porn or online gambling or online gaming. While these things are certainly not the greatest activities to engage in regularly, it is the smartphone that makes them accessible and provides an almost infinite pool of content for one to absorb themselves in. It allows you to do this for hours on end, privately, with no stopping cues. I'd like for you to think of the smartphone as a casino, and social media and other potentially harmful activities as the blackjack or poker tables. It is certainly possible to become addicted to any one game, but it's the casino that draws you in with the colorful lights and the promises of fun and good times. Your relationship with the casino is likely to determine your relationship with the tables. The smartphone is worse though, because it's a casino that has become an extension of your very own body. Now, I hope that this video has shown you that the smartphone and the One Ring are cut from the same cloth. With that being said, I don't want people to think that I'm advocating that we all destroy our phones and go back to living in a pre-tech era. I also don't want you to think that I believe that every single person who uses their smartphone is a deranged Gollum. What I'm trying to do with this video is show that smartphones are powerful objects, not just tools or toys. It takes time and effort for you to be able to use your phone without it using you. Just as Frodo increased the distance between him and the ring by wearing it around his neck, we too need to figure out strategies that we can use to avoid using our smartphones so much. If we don't, it's likely that as technology gets more powerful and immersive, we literally will retreat from the world like golems and isolate ourselves in our own delusional fantasies. In my next video, I'm going to explain some things that I've done personally to build a better relationship with my smartphone, and hopefully you guys will find that useful. Anyway, as always, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
All I hear, go get the money, so I go get it. Hate means I do something right, so I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him, yeah.